get on more stages to speak and spread your message or sell from stage? Well, today in the Waist Up Wardrobe studio, I'm interviewing an expert who helps her clients get speaking gigs, preps them for the stage, and mentors them through the whole process. But if you want to hear what she has to say, you know the drill. You're going to have to stick around because we're coming back with all of that in just a minute. Welcome to Waist Up Wardrobe. I'm Christine Vartanian, a civil engineer and attorney turned personal style expert and image consultant. As the founder of Jade for All Seasons, I am passionate about unveiling the inner confidence of my clients by developing their personal style. But is getting dressed up still important in our virtual world? Well, that's where my experience can help with what I call Waist Up Wardrobe. Waist Up Wardrobe is a podcast for all things you need to conduct an outstanding Zoom meeting. It's about how to dress for the camera, but it's not just about the clothes. It's about everything you need to know to show up on brand and professionally for the camera. Join me in the Waist Up Wardrobe studio to discuss how to navigate this virtual world and dominate from behind the desk. Hello, Virtual Nation. Thank you for joining us for yet another episode of Waist Up Wardrobe. We are on episode 108 here today, and we're going to be talking about getting those speaking gigs. If you are somebody who wants to be doing that, wants to be spreading your message from a stage one to many. But before I get started, I just want to say that we are on iTunes. So feel free to go there, rate us, review us, and listen to the podcast because you get to hear the audio there. If you're taking a stroll on the beach or you're driving in your car, it's a great way to sample some of the Waist Up Wardrobe episodes. And we're also on YouTube. And of course, we always stream here at 11:30 on Thursdays live through Facebook. And I want to just say thank you to my awesome producer, Rick Moscoso, who's always in the production room, making this entire show possible technically and making it making it all happen just seamlessly. So thank you, Rick, for being here. There he is popping in. And now I just want to kind of dive right in and start talking and bragging about my guest expert today. My guest expert today is Lisa Reed, and Lisa is the founder of Get Speaking Gigs Now. She coaches speakers on how to get booked and attract clients through speaking. She has personally delivered over 600 speaking engagements herself, and you can learn more about her and her resources at Get Speaking Gigs Now.com. And I'll say that one more time because I stumbled. GetSpeakingGigsNow.com is also on the screen. And so she will be talking to us about how to get those speaking engagements, how to keep them coming, and how to prep for them. So please help me welcome Lisa Reed to the show. Hi, Lisa.
Hello. So excited to be here.
Oh, I'm excited to have you. We met several years ago during one of your meetings that you were having, and it was really cool to see you kind of in action, helping people understand how important speaking can be to a group and for their businesses, and just how to navigate all that. So I'm really excited to dig deep and really give the audience some tips on how to do this for themselves and have them get to know you. But one of the things that we do at the top of the show is we get to know you on a personal level a little bit because people to know who Lisa is. And I'm just going to be throwing at you some questions that are like this or that question. So just kind of respond as I throw them at you. Okay. Cats or dogs?
Used to be cats. Now it's dogs.
Really? You converted.
Switched.
And do you have a dog?
I have a Shih Tzu. She's so adorable.
Oh, well, that's wonderful. Dogs are just such a wonderful addition to the family. Okay, college teaching or entrepreneurial coaching?
Well, I used to be a college instructor actually at Cal State Fullerton, and I definitely would say entrepreneurial coach is my preference because I'm not as limited to the structure that one would need to follow if working for the university.
Yeah, well, it's so interesting about you. So how long ago were you a professor at?
When I was 22, which was a really long time ago. And I have a master's degree in speech communication. P.S. You don't need one to be a speaker. It just happens to be that I have one. And I taught for 2 years while I was getting my my graduate degree at Cal State Fullerton. Yeah,
Wow. Well, that's really, really cool. And it kind of, I guess it was always in your blood. You really enjoyed it.
I love teaching.
Yeah. So vacations or staycations?
Both. I love going on vacation, but I like to live like I'm on vacation.
Well, you are speaking from my heart because I am the same way. I love to live. Oh, I mean, I feel like we live in Orange County, so it's like everybody comes here to vacation. Why would we go
We're
anywhere?
very lucky.
Yeah.
Where we live, we're so lucky.
Yeah.
And so like my husband and I, if we go out to dinner, we try to find places that like, oh, this feels like a place we would go when we're on vacation, that type of thing. I utilize my pool. I'm not one of those people who has the pool and never goes to it, that kind of thing.
Well, that's actually a really good tip. It's really important for people to use those things that are at your disposal because then we kind of take those for granted, right?
Yes.
That's a really great way to live. Okay, we're gonna dive right in because I want people to hear all about your genius. So you mentor and help people get these speaking engagements, and can you share like how you got started in that arena?
Yes. And I will also say I'm a not a feed you a fish, but teach you how to fish kind of a coach. Like I want to empower all my clients to be able to get booked consistently for the rest of their career, no matter where they live and no matter what industry they're in. So everything I teach is around that. Like, how can I empower you to do that for yourself? How I got started, oh my gosh. Well, we'll start when I was 40. I was hired by a personal development company, and we were actually talking about this prior to the show behind the scenes, and I had taken several workshops with them for a couple years, had found massive results in my personal and professional life. And so I was really in love with the work. And they had come to me and they said, we are actually looking for someone to help us bring in new clients and business development. And how we've done that is we give a presentation on mindset and we go out and teach as many people as we can. We give this presentation. Would you be interested? And I was like, of course. That would be amazing because now I actually get to help people make massive results in their life because I knew it already worked, right? I was what I call ignorance on fire. It's like, yes, let's do this thing. I don't know how it's going to work, but I'm in.
Yeah.
So that first year, I booked 83 speaking gigs in my local area, and we live in Orange County, California. And I brought in hundreds of clients to fill 10 weekend workshops each year, right? And so that's what I would just do that. And obviously I learned a ton along the way. Well, while this is occurring, all the blood, sweat, and tears of trying to get that many gigs and cold calling and looking under rocks and nooks and crannies and, doing my best. I'm telling you, it wasn't unicorns and rainbows. All of it was not unicorns and rainbows. But I started this group called the OC Speakers Network because I love, which is where you and I met, or one of other times that we met, because I love connecting, collaborating, educating, giving, learning. Like I was like, this is a great place where I could probably get some referrals for speaking and I could give referrals for speaking. So doing that started back in 2013. And along the way, people kept asking me for support. They're like, how did you get that gig? How did you get booked here? Why are you booked everywhere? What are you doing? What are you like bribing people? And I'm like, no, I'm not. Still have not bribed anybody. But it was one of those days, it was a couple years had gone by and people kept asking me for help. And I'm like, I can't help you with that. Finally, got hit by the 2x4. And I was like, I think I'm supposed to help people with this. And that's when I started writing everything down, everything that's in my book, everything that's in my programs. I was like, what are the things? If I was just really narrow down, what are the things that people need to know to go from I've never spoken before, but I want to I'm booked all the time. And that's what everything I do is about.
Yeah, that's really cool. I mean, what a great way to really harness your genius and touch other people with it, right? Because this is something as business owners and entrepreneurs, speaking from the stage can be very powerful in somebody's business. I mean, it's your opportunity to speak not one on one, but one to many people and spread your, your purpose or also sell from stage. And whether you're trying to be a thought leader or trying to be selling from stage, you need to be speaking to a lot of people to do that, right? So it's really cool what you created. Do you think that, because sometimes I'll run into business owners and we'll talk about speaking engagements and they're like, my business, I can't, I don't really need to take the stage. Do you believe that every business owner has this opportunity to get on a stage and find an impact as a result?
I do think it can work for probably nearly any industry. And it's also a personal decision. A lot of like I tell people, I'm not an elbow twister, like, or arm twister. That's what it is. I'm not an arm twister. Like, if you are not called to speak or you just really have a resistance to it, I'm not the person who's going to talk you into it.
Yeah.
But it's more of like an internal calling. And I find this with a lot of the clients that I work closely with. They are like, I've always wanted to do this. I've always dreamed of doing this. Or on the other hand, they might have had fear around it, but whatever that message is, that thing that's like, it's like, this is bigger than my fear. I need to get this out to people. People need to know this information. And so a lot of times I'll work with really heart-centered people. Maybe they're like, oh, if they knew this, then their life could be better. But other times it might be financial, financial professionals, business professionals who are like, there's a lot of misinformation out there. I could save people money. I could save them heartache, from making decisions. So I think it could really work for practically anything.
Yeah. And it's kind of like you've been there, done that. I mean, 600 speaking engagements, your all your training, even your teaching, all kind of inform the work that you're doing with clients to get them on those stages and help them feel successful in booking those stages. So I think, I think you've really kind of navigated this whole area as industry for entrepreneurs in a very thoughtful way. And you have so much to offer them from like the beginning to really keeping it going. Uh,
Mhm.
do you have any tips on how, like if somebody was listening to us right now or listening to a replay, do you have tips on how they can simply, like, is there some simple tips about how to compose a good talk? I know that's a very big question, but are there like certain things that you think are important?
Yes. So I'll give some bite-sized tips so at least you could start getting started. And yes, I do a deep dive on my Get Your Talk Ready to Rock boot camp. And I also offer Get Your Talk Ready to Rock like one-on-one sessions, deep dive where I collaborate with them to create their talk. So I typically say the first step is you do have to have a talk. So I call it Get Your Talk Ready to Rock. It's very difficult, Christine, you probably agree. If you say you're a speaker, but you don't have a talk ready, you're not really like open to those opportunities. Also, people are going to say, oh, great. What's your talk about? And you're like, I don't have, I'm still working on it. Like, you don't want to, you just don't
Yeah.
want to come out like that. So my philosophy is like, always be ready to be ready. And whatever you can do ahead of time, why not? Like, if you want to be a speaker, well, then you need to have a talk. Okay. So what are the three main things you need to have in your talk? Here's some tidbits for you. Yes, you need an attractive title, of course, right? You don't want to have the person wonder, well, I don't really get what that talk is. Like, what? I don't really know if my audience would want to hear that. So you need to make it bite sized, edible for people, attractive,
Yeah.
sexy, whatever.
Yeah.
Two, you need to have a description, just like on Netflix. Like you're flicking through, you're like, oh, should I watch this show? And you're going to click on the little icon and you want to read a couple sentences. Same with your talk. The organizer needs to get a little bit of a, oh, I like the title. Let me get a little more. And then the third thing that you're going to need is your learning points. And it's like, usually three is plenty, 3 to 5, not really more than 5 necessarily on a talk, but like, what is the audience going to learn? You will learn this, right? And you need to be clear about that because they're going to want to know, well, if you come and speak for us, what's the audience going to get? I have been doing this, as you know, hundreds of times. That never changes. They always ask for the title, the description, and the learning points. That's what you have to have that. You have to have that.
I love how you made that so succinct. That is such a great nugget. And in fact, I want to make sure that like if I want people to really understand that, because that is so clear. It's the title, the description, and the 3 learning points, or the number, the few learning points. That really can be very helpful for somebody who's just kind of going, okay, I don't know what I'm going to be talking about. What do I talk about? I love that. So I always feel like there's 2 things, right? When you're on stage, you could either be trying to be this thought leader, or
Mhm.
you could be trying to sell from stage, maybe both. But Do you coach clients on selling from stage, actual call to action to sell?
Yes. Yes. And that's my wheelhouse. I have people who, so a lot of times it might be referred to as like paid keynote speaking is a little bit more on the thought leadership side, selling from stage, or, giving your offer from stage, marketing, using speaking as marketing is like the other lane. There are speakers who do both. I am more in the selling from stage model. So I love working with entrepreneurs who are going to give massive value to the audience. And also then you're considering massive value to your business. Like, does this work? Does this make sense? You still should have a call to action, even if you're a quote unquote like keynote speaker or paid keynote speaker or thought leader. That call to action might just look different, right? It might be, go out and do XYZ with the world or the community, or I want you to be thinking of this or something like that. But you'll notice that a lot of times those thought leaders have a book, or maybe they have a course, or maybe they have a website, or maybe they have some. So it's not that they're not doing it. They don't have other things. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't.
Yeah.
I will also add on to, when you're getting your talk done, if you are wanting to use the stage to attract your ideal clients, I do this thing where we start at the end. So there was a couple other components that I didn't mention in the talk, but we start at the end first, and then we work our way up. So what happens is we actually start at that call to action. What
Yeah.
is the point? What's going to lead you to, this is where my business coaching comes in. It's like, what one thing can you have them do that's actually going to lead them to the thing that's going to get you to the business? It might be selling something, literally. It might be giving away something for free, to get them to that next step. And then the learning points are going to then work off that. It's all going to lead to that piece. And then, of course, the description is going to describe the learning points. And then the title is going to pull it all together. So even though I said the title first, it's last.
Yeah.
So we start
But
at
I
the end first.
love how you reverse engineer that, right?
Yeah.
Because that, you kind of want to, what's the result you want? Let's see how we're going to get there by reverse engineering it. I think that's
Yeah.
brilliant. Yeah. What a great way to teach that and to kind of coach people to get to that, to get their ultimate result. So here's something interesting. So, I feel like, even, I've been doing the podcasting for 108 shows. So, and I'll take the stage frequently at like a networking event or something. And I feel like you never really lose those nerves, right? Like, I feel like even though I've been doing it a lot, I don't get so nervous anymore podcasting, but like getting on a stage with everybody watching, eyes on you, those first 30, 40 seconds are like, who am I talking to? Do you have any tips on a way to prepare so that you're not feeling those nerves, or that so you can like subdue them pretty quickly? And do you think most people get nervous before they take the stage?
I think that most people do. I think it changes the more you do something, it might lessen. I also think it's really exciting to feel that adrenaline. I guess I think of it more as a little bit of adrenaline versus nervousness, or, it's kind of all the same. So I feel like, oh my gosh, I'm alive. Like I can feel it. Like I can feel my heart beating harder or faster, or I can feel like the jitteriness, and that's to me very exciting versus terrifying. Although I know not everyone has that same experience. When it comes to fears around speaking, I know there are a lot of people who would rather have a lot of other things happen to them besides being on that stage. Most people that work with me already can't wait to get the microphone in their hands, even though they might still feel nervous. And what I have found is that it's really individual. It's an individual conversation. It's a customized conversation. So more than like, oh, go do this breath work or do this, activity. It's more of a conversation of like, okay, what conversation do you need to have with yourself to calm the nerves? What is it that you're worried about? Okay. It's almost like having a dialogue with yourself. Like, okay, what am I worried about? I'm worried I'm going to look stupid or make a mistake. Okay. Well, if that happens, then what are you going to do? Or if that happens, what do you think is going to happen next? And you're like, well, I'll probably just keep going and everyone will be okay. And is anyone going to die? No. Like really just sort of calming yourself down so that you're like, what's the worst thing that could happen? And I've heard some of the worst most embarrassing stories, people falling on their face in front of everyone, having their dress tucked into their nylons. And I mean,
Oh,
really bad stuff, really, really bad stuff. But guess what? They were fine. And the audience is always on your side. They're always just like, they want you to succeed. Um, so yeah, it's not something that just like goes away, but it doesn't have to go away.
yeah. No, it makes a lot of sense what you're saying, because I think that a little bit of nerves just means that there's excitement, right?
Yeah.
And just personally, just, when I get on stage, I always feel like what helps me with my nerves is preparation ahead of time, and not over preparing, because I've done that before, and then I kind of get glued to my script, and if I miss something, I'm like in my head, and that can be counterproductive too. But really preparing, at least on my points that I want to make, and sort of the order in which I want to make it, I feel that really helps calm me, because I kind of know what I'm going to do. It's just a matter of just grounding myself on the stage, which I think is really important too when you're speaking from stages, like really to feel grounded. But preparation usually helps me, and sometimes even like those breath exercises and just those exercises that help you not articulate properly. Because I found that when I was nervous, when I speak, like I would like the words wouldn't come out right. I wouldn't articulate things fully. And I was like, okay, that's my nerves. Have you
Yeah.
experienced that, or seen somebody experience that?
I have, and I just roll with it. And then I also, oh my gosh, I was going to say something and I can't remember what it was, but it was going to be really great. So I'll think of it in a second. See, it can happen just like right like that, right?
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, planting yourself on that stage, when you plant yourself on that stage, you really feel, confident, right? And the preparation that really helps me a lot. I'm sure it'll come to you and
Oh,
kind of.
I know it was the preparation. So I'm a huge fan of preparing. And sometimes people will ask me, well, how many times do I need to give? How many times do I need to practice my talk? And it's literally like asking the owl, how many bites does it take to get to the middle of the Tootsie Pop? I'm like, gosh, I don't know. 3, 10, 15, once? I'm not sure. It depends on you. But the goal is to, as much as you can, create that unconscious competence so that you're not thinking about your content when you're on stage, but you're really there. The content's already in your DNA, and then you can give more to the audience because you're not worried about yourself. You're there to serve them. And that is not like, there's not an exact many steps to get there. It's just like, well, until you kind of feel it, go for it. And sometimes you may not have, sometimes that's going to take longer. Like the more times I've given my talk, I mean, I'll tell people like, give your talk 100 times, then guess what? It's going to be in your DNA. It's going to be in there. But sometimes people are like, well, I just, I did it once and it didn't work. I'm like, oh my gosh, you got to get out there more. It's okay. But
Yeah.
allow yourself that time.
Yeah. Well, another thing that helps me calm my nerves is that when I get on that stage, like kind of like what you mentioned, I know that somebody in that audience is going to get something really great out of what I have to say,
Yeah.
right? Serving somebody, even if it's just one person, that by itself makes me feel like, okay, I'm doing something really important for at least one person in this audience. And that helps me kind of ground myself as well.
That's brilliant, Christine, because then it's not about you, it's about giving to them. And when you can shift that on stage and be in that space, it's like everything else is calm, because whatever we're feeling, even if we're not maybe showing it physically, right? Feelings are contagious. People can sense that, even if they maybe not even on a conscious level, but they're like, sometimes I have people say, well, I've spoken a lot and I never sold anything, or no one ever bought anything. And I'm like, okay, well then something's off. Like we need to go through the whole system and see what wire's not connected or what's going on, because that's not the audience. That's either you or the presentation. So let's figure it out.
Interesting. Very interesting, because that kind of leads me to my next question. And
Mhm.
when you get on that stage, it's so important to build that rapport, right? And I have this belief that when you get on a stage, and I don't know if this resonates with you, but when you get on a stage, you have to be like two things. You have to be ordinary and you have to be extraordinary. You have to be ordinary because they need to be able to relate
Relatable.
you.
Yeah.
It would be extraordinary because there's a reason they came to listen to you,
That's
right? I
right.
mean, you're the expert, because if you're just ordinary, then like, why are they even there listening to you and dedicating time to that? But that rapport building is so important. Do you have any like thoughts on that or tips around that? Because like you said, if somebody gets on stage and isn't able to connect with the audience for them to trust them enough to maybe ask them for a next step, then something is amiss.
Yeah, it's so important to just remember this. This is really the key. Your audience is made of human beings, right? And it's not like prospects or robots or just a number of people. It's human beings. And sometimes we forget to connect to the audience. It's like if something's happening in the room, address it. If just, oh, there, did it, was I the only one who heard that really loud noise? All right, let's get back to the program. Like it's okay to go a little off script when you're having a shared experience. So connecting, if I'm in person, of course, I'm going to look people directly in the eye. I might walk out into the audience depending on the setup. I'm going to really engage them. Like if I'm going to ask them to do something, okay, everyone, get your pens out. And I'll look and like, did you get your pens out? Get your pens out. Come on, let's do this. Right. So it's not just like ignoring that everyone didn't get their pen out. Like, okay, let's all do this together. Even that languaging can help, that let's, and we are in it and we're going to do it together. Those types of things can also help build rapport. There's so many ways you can compliment. You can, there's compliment, collaborate, and commonality are the three keys to building rapport. So I do those kind of naturally anyway, but if you're really not great at building rapport, you can start going, what do we have in common? Oh, hey, I grew up here. So glad I'm here on stage. Or, oh, whatever that commonality is,
Yeah.
complimenting. And I already mentioned the collaboration.
Yeah. So the collaboration is more like, let's do this together.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the commonality is like, how are we the same?
Yeah.
And
Like, oh, I'm from a small town too. Like, say you're speaking in, I spoke in Mississippi. Well, I've never been to Mississippi before, but I grew up in a small town. So I can say, oh, I grew up in a small town too. It's just a little farther away from you.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Or like, I'm a mother too, or I'm,
Yeah,
things like that. Yeah, yeah.
exactly.
Um,
Exactly.
the complimenting, can you clarify that one?
Yeah. So I did it earlier when I said, oh, Christine, what a great tip that you did to help create, how you practice or how you deliver your talk. Right. So I'm not doing it because I feel like we need to develop rapport. It just comes naturally. So of course, if you're complimenting someone, it needs to be authentic. Don't lie. Don't lie.
That's right. People see through that. People are,
Yeah. Yeah.
authenticity is something that you feel like in your bones, right? So,
Yeah.
and people are not, are very in tune with that. They can tell if somebody's being
Yeah.
real
Yeah.
or
Don't
not.
be fake. It's got to be real.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow, this is so good. It's so good. I am really hanging on every word you're saying because I do speak in public, and this is so great to get these tips from an expert who coaches people on this. So one of the things that I have trouble with is, when you get on stage, I have a talk that can go an hour long,
Mhm.
but sometimes you have to take that hour long um talk and condense into 10 minutes, or 3 minutes even
Oh,
sometimes.
that's really hard. Yeah.
Yeah. So that sort of like, if you're given by the coordinator only 10 minutes to really do, the teaching and the three things, the teaching, getting them to know you, all those things. Do you have any tips on that, like scaling that talk?
Yes. It's always, I find it harder to go shorter than longer. When I help people get their talk ready rock, we actually start with a 30-minute model because I know they can always add, right?
Mm.
If you start with 30 minutes, then you can always add an exercise or you can expand on something or you can take shares from the audience. There's so many ways that you can expand it. But if you start with 30, it's going to be a little easier to cut it down to 10. When I do a 10-minute talk, which is not my favorite length of time to speak, I will really pare it down and then I will practice the heck out of it, right? Because I don't want to go over. If there's 10 minutes, that means they're on a strict schedule. I don't ever want to go over, but it's even more important that you really nail it. So you don't go off on too much of a bunny trail. You got to like stay on the point. I think one of the biggest mistakes speakers make, whether however many minutes they're speaking, is they try to shove too much information into the thing. And
Ah,
also because like it's stuff that you know really well. You're like, doesn't everyone know this? Like, this is so basic. Why would they want to learn this? But honestly, the keep it simple, sweetheart, if you share like one juicy big tip, and maybe just like even what I said about the title, the learning point, the description and learning points, that's 3 things. I mean, I have a whole huge program on that where I go deep dive into each piece. But I know on a 30,000 foot view, like you still need those 3 things.
Yeah.
You take something that's like really maybe vast of your expertise and just go, let me give you these 3 tips. And then if you want more, you can go here and find out more, or you can see me after, or you can go to this link, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Oh, that's so good. So good. So how often do you think a business owner should take this stage? I mean, is there a kind of an average that feels right and gives them more opportunities?
I'm a huge fan of having a nice, balanced life. And so, one of the things that I'll ask people when we're talking about working together is I say, how many times do you feel like you can fit this into your current model? Depends on what you're doing. How are you trying to raise family and kids and got all that going on? And are you taking care of elderly parents? Like, what else is on your plate? How can this fit in? And that'll help us determine if you're going to go more virtual, because that's easier. Click the button, you're in and out, or traveling, or, speaking your local area. And then we also start to figure out the monetization piece of it. Like, if you did this many talks and you sold this item, this service, and you gain this many clients, like, what does that bring in? How does that match what your financial goals are? So we look at it from all these different angles. It's not just like, how many talks should you give? It's like, well, your time, you can't get your time back. So you always want to be like, really, I would say, leverage the, heck out of every single opportunity, whether it's a podcast, a live interview like this, a radio show, a virtual talk, anything, making sure that you can leverage it so you can say an easy yes, like, yes, that's going to be worth my time for my business, or I'm flattered, but that's just not going to work for me. Most of my clients speak once, twice, or 3 times a month on average.
Oh,
I
wow.
speak I speak 5 times a month on average.
Oh, very interesting. Okay. Well, I was, I've been speaking regularly, like every 2 months, but I was thinking, it's stuff I love to do. I love to speak and, spread the message, but I couldn't imagine doing it 2 or 3 times, but it's just like you said, right?
Yeah,
It's
depends.
more according to what else is going on in your life. So I mean, this is like so interesting. There's so many preparations you have to do to prepare to be a speaker. And one of them is that one sheet or your speaker sheet, right?
Mhm.
Can you give us a little bit of information on that?
Sure. And that's one of the modules in my academy, because I know so many people have questions about it. Either they don't know what it is, or they know they need one, but they don't have one yet, or whatever. So for anyone listening, you're like, what's a speaker sheet? It's basically typically a 1-page. It's sometimes called a speaker one sheet, speaker 1-page, speaker sheet. There's different ways people refer to it. And back in the day, right, it would be something that you would actually have printed out. You might actually hand it over to somebody. Nowadays, you don't really need it printed. Like, who's carrying around a bunch of papers in their bags? No, it's definitely a digital piece, but it highlights you as a speaker. Okay, so it's not all your services. No, that's a different thing. It's your speaking. You're typically, it has your topic, your headshot, your um, what audience you serve, possibly some media, if you've been on some TV, or different logos of maybe companies you've spoken for or worked with, some testimonials, and of course it's branded in your colors and your look and your style and things like that. So those are the basics. And a lot of times people have speaker sheet shame or fears or worries, and it's like, oh, I don't have this, I don't have that, I need my headshots, I need this, I need this, I need this. That's why I have an entire module broken down of like how you start to get it all together. How could you write your bio? How would you ask for testimonials and make it super easy? My big thing, Christine, is done is better than perfect. Like, we need to get the project done. You can always go and change it. You can update it. The world is not going to end. It's going to be okay, but yeah, got to start with what you have. They might say, oh, I've never been on a TV show. That's okay. We
Yeah.
don't, then we won't put that on there. Just like as a stylist, you're like, we're going to accentuate the positive, right? We're
Exactly, exactly. It's
don't,
so such a
certain things look good on you, certain things don't.
yeah, no, really good advice. I mean, I think sometimes perfectionism can really stand in the way of people's success. So just just sometimes, like you said, done is better than perfect. And it's something I had to learn the hard way. But it's, it's true. If you're trying to get everything just so, you might not ever get it done. So really great advice. So Lisa, we how can people connect with you? Because I mean, you are a wealth of knowledge. This episode is important for every entrepreneur to hear. And I'm going to be pushing this out on social because I really like all the entrepreneurs I know. I want them to hear what you have to say because I know they all want to be on stage. I think everybody wants to be on stage, but they just fear getting started, or they fear that nobody's going to want them, or, we always are thinking things like that. So such good information here. But how can people connect with you if they wanted to, talk further and understand better what you do and how you can help them?
They can go to getspeakinggigsnow.com. On there, you can get access to the 5 top tips to get more speaking gigs. I know that's what you want. You don't want just one gig, right? You want several
Yep.
for hopefully the rest of your career. And if you are also feeling like, wow, I have been wanting to do this for a really long time, I really can't ignore that anymore. Like, life's short. You're just feeling like if you were waiting for a sign, this is it. Let's have a conversation. Um, you can sign up for a conversation with me. It's called the Speaker Readiness Assessment. That's also available on getspeakinggigsnow.com/chat. So that'll take you directly to the questions and access to my calendar so we can have a more deep conversation about what it is you're trying to achieve, and if I can support you, I'm happy to do so.
Yeah, well, Lisa, we put all that in the comments so people can actually look at that and connect with you. I just had this thought. You yourself speak on stages, right? But
Yeah.
you speak about speaking.
Yeah.
So we need to
Art imitating life, imitating art.
you speak about speaking, which I think is so cool, right? Like,
Yeah, it's fun.
yeah. It's awesome. You are awesome. This has been so wonderful. Let's wrap up because I want people to get like the nuggets, right? That summary. So if there's one takeaway from today's show that you want people to really resonate with, what would be that one takeaway?
I would say do what makes your heart sing. If you are meant to be a speaker, you already know. You already know. Figure out what you want to say, start writing it down, and come up with a plan to share it out to as many people.
Yeah. Yeah, that's amazing. And how about any tips, any quick tips?
Well, I shared 3 of the tips about what you need to get your talk done, but there's 2 more things that you're going to need as you become a speaker that they're going to ask you for. And that is, you need a professional headshot.
Yeah.
And of course, you're going to want to look really good for that. So I recommend you check in with a stylist before your photo shoot.
Oh, there you go.
Do you know anyone who could help with that? And then you're going to want a bio. They're going to ask you for that bio. So those are your 5 things that nearly every single place is going to ask you to provide them: the title, description, learning points, professional headshot, and your bio.
Wonderful. Such an easy 5 things to remember for everybody out there. Tools. Now, with the hashtag Speak and Shine, you have something to offer our audience. What is that?
I thought it was the thing I already offered, but that's what, you know what? I'm going to do something special. Okay. If you do the Speak and Shine hashtag in the group, I'm going to give you a link to my master class.
Ooh.
And this is a surprise. And it's called Attract Your Clients Through Speaking, Yes, Even Now. It is a class I wrote right after the pandemic when everyone was freaking out, like, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? How's this going to work? And let me tell you, I booked 60 speaking engagements between April 2020 and December 2020.
Wow.
So while everyone was crying,
Yeah.
I was making money. It's okay. And you can still do that too, because a lot of people are on Zoom. So I will make sure and put that link in first. We'll figure it out. We'll get that link to everybody that puts in the Speak and Shine.
Okay, awesome. So final thing, action item for anybody that wants to get started.
Just jot down 3 ideas you have right now. 3 ideas you have right now of what you could share that people need to hear.
Yeah, that's a great way to start, because that title is the most important thing, right? It's the first thing that somebody's going to ask you to do, and you don't want to miss an opportunity when somebody asks you, "Can you come and speak for us?" And you're like, wait a minute, I have to think about what I want to speak about. Yeah, entrepreneurs often do that, right? Even if they're like on the spot, like, or on video, they're like, "Oh, what do I say?" Yeah. Thank you, Lisa. This was amazing. With the hashtag Speak and Shine, you can get what Lisa has to offer in her masterclass. We'll be adding that to the comments here, so that you can go back to the Facebook page and find it and connect with Lisa. Lisa, I am so honored that you were able to make it on our show, and I'm looking forward to connecting with you more in the future. And everybody should listen to this show, because everybody who's in business for themselves has this opportunity to be on stage. Thank you again. And there you have it, Waist Up Wardrobe Nation, the Waist Up Wardrobe weekly wrap up. And thank you for joining us for this very powerful interview. I feel like I'm going to be pushing this show out so much, because every business owner should listen to these tips on here and benefit from it. There's such great information here, and you know it. We are here every Thursday at 11:30 live, having a conversation and a dialogue with you. So join us next week at 11:30, where we will bring you a new, fresh topic and invite a friend. That was amazing.
Oh, thank you for being such a great host.
You are amazing. I learned so much from you, and I really think so many people can benefit from the work that you do, and it's just a wealth. And what I loved about it is you laid everything out so succinctly, and it made so much sense. I mean, it's like somebody's like doesn't know where to start. This is a great place to start.
Let me get that. You know what I'm going to do? I was like, oh gosh, am I supposed to add some? I was like, oh, I'll just ask.
Sorry if I caught you off guard. I didn't realize that you had already done that, but
that's okay.
Yeah.
Hey, I don't mind. I was like, oh, whoops, I better get that information to her. Let me put that link in the oh wait, private chat. Do you want me to put it in the private chat?
You can, Rick, can she put it directly in the comments, or should she put it in the private chat?
You can put it in the comments.
In the comments. Okay, I'll just do that. Okay, so why can't I see that private chat?
Do you see comments?
I see it, but it doesn't like show me where I can type into it. It's like,
oh, it's at the bottom.
Actually, I don't think we can.
Like it doesn't show a box.
Yeah, I think you have to do it in the private chat, and then Rick.
Oh, okay. Yeah, then I'll just copy and paste it.
Okay. Sorry about that.
No.
Okay, but I think I don't have that either, Rick. I don't think you.
Oh, all right. I thought you guys.
Yeah.
Thought you did.
I'll put the title to attract your.
Yeah. Perfect.
Awesome.
That was really good, Rick. Don't you think?
Yeah, it's like I want that.
Yeah. It's like, oh my gosh. So Lisa, do you still have, like, I know you had the network. Now, do you still gather people to talk about speaking?
Yeah, I do. So here's what I do. We do the OC Speakers Network, but it's virtual. And So instead of having a guest speaker, I facilitate I pick a different topic. Like this in September, we're talking about 24 ways to monetize your message. So I open it up and I always have something like people can grab, but then I open up the conversation. So we're having like a group dialogue. Cause like you might go, oh, well, I've got a show and this is how I monetize, or someone else might go, oh, I've never heard of that. How do you do that? So it's just a way for people to exchange information. And then we have speaker referral circles. That's kind of the last third of the show. It's like, or the meeting where people can ask for referrals in a small group setting and then exchange referrals at their comfort level. So I tried to make it, how it was in person. I always had to like kick everyone out. I'm like, you guys got to go. Like everyone wanted to stay and hang out. And so I thought, how can I create that feeling virtually? Like, and it's like a lounge experience to me. It's like, you're here in my living, like, let's pretend you're in my living room and we're all hanging out, we're talking and we're chatting. It's not everyone be quiet while everyone introduce themselves and everyone's multitasking and not really listening. And I'm like, oh, I just don't want that experience,
Yeah. And you do that. How often do you do that?
We do it once a month. So it's the first Tuesday of the month. It's always been the first Tuesday of the month. And so.
I mean, I remember attending one of those lives. It was really good. And I met a lot of people. I met the gentleman who has a company called Movement Makers.
Oh, AG?
I think so.
Yeah. He lives in LA.
Yeah. And I remember him very well from that event. But thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Rick, for keeping the wheels on the train here.
Oh yeah, of course. Nicely done. That was exciting. I loved it.
All right, guys. Talk to you later. Thank you.
All right.
See you tomorrow.
Thanks.
Oh yeah. Bye.
Bye.
You're seeing her tomorrow?
Yeah, she's interviewing me on her podcast.
Ah, very cool.
Yeah, she has a podcast called How I Met My BFF, and her and her friends, best friends, and so it's me and Caroline, my sister, who's my best friend.
Ah, very cool.
Yeah, so we're being interviewed. I don't know what we're going to be saying, or asked, but probably how we met, and
What time is that
at? It's at 3 tomorrow, I think. Yeah, 3:00 tomorrow. Yeah. Okay, we should probably do the speedy recap, right?
Yes, you should.
Okay.
All right, let's see. Okay, I'm going to mute, and when you're ready.
How do I always start this? Let's see. How do I start it?
A question.
Oh, yeah, question. Want to know how to get on more Want to know how to get on more stages so that you can sell from stage or spread your message? Is that good enough? I mean, that is the gist.
Okay. I mean, it was pretty blunt.
Okay. Let me start. Let me do something different. Okay. Speaking one-to-many from a stage can be so powerful for you as a business owner. So do you want to know how to book some speaking engagements so that you can spread your message and or sell from stage?
Yeah, that's better.
Better, right?
I like that. Yep.
Yeah. In episode 108 of Waist Up Wardrobe, Get Speaking Gigs. In episode 108, In episode 108, In episode 108 of Waist Up Wardrobe, Get Speaking Gigs Now, I interview an expert who is the expert mentor on how to get speaking engagements, and she mentors her clients on how to get them. And the Waist Up Wardrobe weekly wrap-up in a nutshell boiled down to this. always be ready to be ready. And what that means is always have a title. A title. If somebody asks you, can you get on my stage? Don't go, oh, I don't know what I'd speak about. You want to have a title prepared so that you can tell them right away and be ready with it. So that's the main takeaway.
Yep.
I'm going to start with the
Yeah, you can go on from there.
Okay. Some key tips to remember. Not only do you need to have a title prepared, but you also have to have a headshot and you have to have your bio prepared and you have to have like some learning points. Like when the coordinator of a speaking engagement asks you, what are you going to speak on? You tell them the title and then you tell them what the learning points are going to be. And you also want to let them know a short little description. So those are the tips. That went long. Should I do it over again?
Yeah, I would.
That was confusing. Yeah. Okay. So a few key tips to remember that a few key tips to remember is you want to have a title ready, but you also want to have a short description that goes along with that title. You want to have 3 learning points that you're going to teach the audience, a bio, and a headshot. Go on to tools.
Yes.
Okay. Tools and action item. Okay. And for tools, go to this episode and listen to it step by step because you can get a checklist of what you need to prepare for, how you need to prepare, and how you can get those speaking engagements on the spot. No, I'm going to start over again. And a tool is this episode. This episode was so rich with information on how to get your speaking gigs and what to do to prepare for them. So go back and listen to the replay on this and take advantage of the freemium that the interviewee offered. And finally, action item. If you want to get started to be on some stages, the bare minimum you have to have ready is some topics to talk about. So sit down and brainstorm some topics that you can easily talk about and also educate an audience about.
Okay.
Yeah?
Yeah. Yeah. That'll work. Let me turn this off.
So
You're good with that?
Yeah, that's good. So I want to really push out this episode because I think it was very powerful. I think so many people